We're all smiles this morning because one of us is in the house today. And the last time his shadows darkened the walls of the Standard Group, we knew him wearing one hat. Now there's another feather to that hat, but he's here to help us in a conversation today. Nzau Musau, good morning.
Good morning to you, and thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Nashukuru.
Nashukuru.
Mungu.
He's in the brotherhood of the journalist.
Yeah.
But then also now, he's an advocate. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Now they call you my learned friend.
They call me learned friend. You've just hosted one of them. I was glad. When I was coming, I found Honorable Martha Karua outside Senior Council.
Yeah.
I was really worried. You are pairing me against Martha. But I was glad she was going to Radio Maisha.
You breathed a sigh of relief.
I said, thank you. Thank heavens.
Good to see you, and karibu sana.
Asante sana.
We're looking at questions today, legal questions, but also information questions. And so conversations around, what happens with justice gaps. And there's a big topic. We could talk about it for years, but, we'll try to see what we can do in an hour. So thanks for coming. But we're going to get you to interpret something anyway. Dennis will let you know what that is and where it's from. And we'd love to hear your interpretation.
We're in Ivory Coast, the country that gave us one of the best footballers, Didier Drogba. Which football team do you support?
Here we go.
That's a long conversation. The best thing is to skip it.
To skip it, eh?
No, that's the lawyer talking, not the journalist.
That's the lawyer talking,
That's not a journalist talking, it's the lawyer. Yeah.
But then again, so let's put football aside. But if you love chocolate, remember 40% of the world cocoa that produces chocolate comes from Ivory Coast. They also have coffee, and they border Liberia, Guinea, Burkina Faso, and the Atlantic Ocean as well. But let's go to the proverb. The toad does not run in the day for nothing. The toad does not run in the day for nothing. How would you interpret that?
Wow, that's a difficult one. But there's always seasons for everything. There's a good reason why you said it does not run
in the day, during the day for nothing.
For nothing. Yeah, because the day has its own, there's light, there's everything. So things happen in their own time. I think at the appropriate time, at the right time, things happen. I want to believe that is the case with the toad.
Okay. Actually, that's interesting because when we see the toad running during the day, you think something is coming. But then also, you shouldn't be running in the day. You should be running at the time that is appointed for you. Yeah. Abi, that's interesting.
There is a time appointed for everything. The Bible says, I'm not quite a preacher, but I know.
The man to your left reminded us of that same verse. There's a time and season.
He's a preacher.
This guy here.
Bishop, don't joke.
Yeah, bless you.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Kenya's justice gap is what we're looking at today, and even if we title it something, that means that there might be an issue. And no court for international crimes is a question that we're asking. But if we start with Kenya's justice gap, let's look into it. Is there a justice gap in Kenya, whether we're looking at what happens within the country or whether we're looking at what happens from Kenya to other jurisdictions? Is there a justice gap in Kenya?
There's a gap. There's always been a gap. I just told you that I was admitted in May, and you'll be surprised the number of advocates in this country. We are around 25,000 since that is the number that I have, 25,000 plus. So, and when you look at the number of the population of this country, the disputes, the things which happen in our societies, you only have 25,000 advocates, and those are the ones admitted ever since. So the number of advocates, obviously, is quite low. So even when you look at in terms of the advocates, the number of advocates alone, you have serious gaps. But also, of course, now the laws, the number of judges per, the population of the country. Gaps are many. Even in terms of implementation, justice is a whole. When you say justice is really a whole, you are talking about so many things. Administration of justice, the whole justice sector is it involves police, it involves the DPP, the prisons, and so on and so forth. So the gaps are wide in terms of the law, the culture. Kenyans themselves, many of us don't really obey laws. We are forced into this arrangement of a country of a nation where we have to cede some of our rights so that we are in a society. And many people, of course, impunity is really, really, really a problem, a challenge in this country. People don't obey laws. We start from there, the people themselves. But you also have weak laws. You have laws which need a lot of updating. You have very many dormant laws. You have issues of training capacity for the judges, judicial officers, and even advocates like myself. And so on and so forth. So the gaps are wide. The gaps are really, really wide domestically, and as you go, even begin to venture out into international crimes and international law.
And yet, there's an entire judicial system. There are magistrates, there's courts, different levels. Whether you're talking about high courts, supreme courts, whether you're talking about your courts that specialized, labor courts, industrial courts, and we're saying that there's so many gaps. Are we saying that the people who have been hired are inadequate, or are we saying that the numbers that are required then outweigh those who have been put in those positions?
No, the gaps are the lack of numbers is one thing, but also there is issues of quality of the people that you are appointing. Recently, you have seen our senior Nelson Harvey on a campaign against corruption in judiciary. So you see, that's an aspect of quality, the quality of the people that we are hiring, but also the quality also of the laws that we are talking about, the laws that we are implementing as a country, and also the commitment of the country towards justice. Ordinary citizens, not so ordinary citizens. Many people are not committed to upholding the rule of law. I saw the other day a lot of questions on judges who have asked for bribes, who are facilitating court matters, of course, upon being paid. So the gaps are many. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not one line of you can look it in all the directions, from the people themselves, judiciary itself, practitioners, the people who are processing the justice issues, like advocates themselves. So there are many issues: gaps, corruption, and lack of proper training, lack of commitment. What I'm talking about, and many, and so on and so forth. There.
So you'd find that among Kenyans, you find you have an issue that needs to be prosecuted in court, but there is the question of access, and access here comes in different ways. First of all is Kenyans are afraid, am I able to afford a lawyer? Then there is also the other aspect of, look at the population we have and the number of courts that we have. So you find many have to travel long distances, and most of the time one would just say, we'll just discuss it as was there and find a way around it, or just let it go, even when it's a matter that can be canvassed in court very well. So just address the matter of siwezi nika afford lawyer bana wacha hii story ikufe, or the court is far, I might as well just find a way of dealing with this at a local level and just let it slide.
Yeah, but Dennis, since 2010 and even before that, there is people are very litigious. People want to take every matter to court. That's part of the problem. There are many ways of solving issues. Here at Standard, there are many. There are caucuses. You can have people who can talk and arbitrate on some of your issues, mediate. And the Constitution since 2010 really encourages alternative dispute resolution, including traditional ones that we used to have in the villages. So you really don't have to run to court. But we are not saying that people should not go to court. They should be able to go to court if they feel they need to go to court, or they are not adequately able to solve their disputes. But in our society, starting from a family level, there are many ways of solving disputes. Families have a lot of disputes, but you scale up from the family level, you find now even more disputes. But also at the same time, there are many mechanisms of solving disputes other than the courts. The courts ideally should be the last place of resort, because of the reasons I've alluded in terms of capacity issues for the judiciary. Since 2010, actually, judiciary has done a tremendous job. I'm not speaking for them. I don't hold brief for them. But we have observed. I'm a journalist. I'm an advocate. I've observed a number of judges increasing, a number of court stations increasing. But also they try to deploy technology ever since COVID, also many virtual hearings and so on and so forth. But also the number of advocates is increasing. Yeah, but we have so many other people who can help solve disputes, including the man on my left here, my left who is a preacher. He can solve. Preachers should be able to solve some of our problems. Yeah, they should listen to you. You don't have to jump the courts for some of the disputes you go. One time I did my judicial attachment in Makadara, and I saw so many. I was really shocked. That was shocking to me. In fact, I wrote about it, being the journalist I am.
Yeah.
I saw so many disputes which are totally irrelevant. Well, not irrelevant, but not worth reporting to Makadara every morning.
Like what, for example?
When you go to Makadara, these things of someone has stolen my 2,000 bob from my M-Pesa and so on and so forth. Many, and even family disputes where you feel people is a question of this child and this uncle or this father, they clearly have serious issues which stretch back. Not the issue like the uncle is claiming you stole the phone. Yeah. But when you listen to them, the anger within, I was really shocked. And they would come to Makadara every morning. And Makadara is a very interesting place. You go there, and in the morning people have prayers. You people, the preacher people.
That time has stopped,
right? they have prayer sessions in the morning. So, and then Makadara sometimes it gets so full, traffic offenses. So sometimes you are in court and you'll be called out. So Nzau Musau, then it's a settle, and then you are taking plea from the corridors. You are so many of you.
Oh wow!
The place is full. So
we're talking about a situation today where even now at this time we go to Makadara and there are people standing outside for these cases that you talk about that could be handled otherwise.
Precisely. And that's what I'm saying, with the society, the systems, the mechanism of our preacher people and many others, just the family level, the way you used to have elders, this guy will solve my problem, or will listen to me. If I have a case against my parents or my relatives, they should be able to listen. But people don't do that nowadays. They run to court. So you want to you look for an advocate. We are so many of us, and then you go to court. The matter drags forever because of this. No more. The judicial process, the justice process itself is very meticulous. So you cannot skip certain things. You really have justice has to be served, to be done, but also seen to be done. So you have to listen to people, give them time. The process drags, and then you complain. These courts are.
But Okili, right there then lies the gap in terms of we have alternative mechanisms for solving disputes, and perhaps Kenyans are not aware of all these other mechanisms that are available, and perhaps then how do we fill that gap and ensure that not everything comes to court, including those that ought to be discussed outside
the court nowadays. They have all these things called court annex mediations. Many advocates are really training and practicing mediation, arbitration outside the formal, within the court structure, but they are doing it on the side. So many of us are, you could say, judges. We are judging matters outside the normal court system, but annexed. Sometimes you have to register what you have agreed in court. So it's happening already. But we are saying also more education, more civic education, more awareness needs to be spread so that people know that you really, truly don't need to take a matter to court if you have other avenues which are available to us to be able to sort out the matters so that you don't also clog the system and then we will complain, all of us, that this is just things are dragging for too long. But you do not have enough judicial officers. You do not have proper technology. Our courts sometimes are very. If you go to registries, files and so on, it's a whole process. It's a system issue.
And is that the reason why? Because today, the Star has a story. The headline here. There's this Mutumba Granny's 20-year fight for justice. So they go to Milimani Law Courts yesterday over the missing file in a case that has been pending for 20 years. And this dispute involved the group and the National Police Service. I had a court case, I think 2 weeks ago, and I was ready, I was present. Then all of a sudden, file ipatikani. So the case has to move to October, towards the end of October. This situation of files missing has always been a mystery.
it has improved, actually. I mean, you remember the matter that was in the public domain for the longest time, last 2 weeks ago, the matter of Kungu Muigai. There was an issue of something which was missing, a file which was missing. Here is a file which is missing. And those issues have always been there. They have improved nowadays. At least you know some. It's not as it used to be in the 90s or in the 80s. Files still miss, like you say, this one is missing, but they can be restructured. They can be. You can how do I put it?
Is it missing, or somebody just
somebody takes
the file?
I take your information. I'm informed. If someone has taken, then that should be the case. I don't know what has happened. But obviously, what you are alluding, people are Kenyans. Us, we are Kenyans. We are very strange people. Sometimes we are corrupt. People steal files. That's obvious. People do that, or they hide files. I saw, but also matters drag in for other reasons. I saw the other day, actually the day before yesterday, there was a acquittal of sorts. The Matiang'i, the Miguna, you remember the Miguna debacle, which took place in 2018, and there was a conviction. I think Matiang'i, the former CS, was convicted of contempt, and he was told to pay some amount, blah blah blah. And I saw now that was 2018. Now it's 2025.
Yes.
He has just won the appeal or so. I mean, I'm not quite sure whether he won, but Nelson, have you had another view at it? But you can imagine a matter for 2018. The appeal has just succeeded since 2018. And probably, I don't know, I hear that the former CS wants to run for public office. And you can now, your guess is as good as mine. Why a matter like that would now be acquitted
suddenly, all of a sudden.
I don't know.
Out of the blue.
I could be wrong, but that surprised me.
Sure, you could be, but there's nothing like coincidence in some of these matters, as we are told,
and especially in politics,
right? And like even when you want to think about things like happenstance, if it actually does, just because of circumstances happen. So then, is it deliberate? Are some of these things deliberate? Because we can talk about the law and we can wrap it all up in the legalese, but then there's the reality that's hitting us in the face every day. That don't we see some of these things as almost deliberate? That a case should drag for 20 years. There's something that somebody doesn't want to face. That an appeal should be strung up in the courts for 5 years, and then suddenly, gafla bin vu, as we often say, then suddenly an appeal has been heard. When it then is very convenient for the individual who is in the throes of that appeal to then be acquitted of any kind of wrongdoing. Is it deliberate? These things that we see.
Let me surprise you and tell you my experience again in Makadara, where I was doing my judicial attachment. I was the magistrate, the resident magistrate I was attached to. I will never forget that. It surprised me. It was like it hit me. It's really shook me that judicial officers, judges, actually want to facilitate a quick resolution of a dispute. That I remember that shocked me, because I always used to hear the way we hear, judiciary, those people are very slow, blah blah blah, all those things. They don't want matters just drag forever and so on. And then the magistrate I was attached to, she's called Honorable Malingo, I think. She was always insisting on very close dates, and the litigants themselves would push the dates very far away. Like now right now it's September.
Yes. So
someone picks the magistrate wants a date before December, or even the next month she's available. Then us who have the disputes want to pick dates in May next year. And you know what that means? By May next year, maybe the magistrate will have been transferred. There's a new magistrate, so you have to, basically
start again.
All those things. And matters, very simple things like a mention. You are just coming to court to report what we have done, or to get direction on. So people want to pick mention dates for next year, Feb. And next week the court is sitting. People always say, of course, my people, now being an advocate, they say, next week I'm busy, I have another matter. But a mention where you're just reporting, maybe did you file the affidavits, blah blah, all those things should be easy. So my point is,
before you make that point, if the magistrate wants to hear the mention or close a case as soon as possible, why will they then drag it to, for example, next year? Is it legal fees they keep What's the
don't
point?
know. You're speaking to the wrong man, because I am a newly admitted advocate, so I do not have a lot of
Who
experience.
has
No,
been
in
through the annals of the system?
In your experience, in your experience covering this, and you're touched there, in your own observation, you're trying to figure out, okay, the reason of things. So why would they want to push? Is it to collect more evidence? Is it what would be the motivation, in your opinion?
They are, different. Like what you're saying could be one of them. I would imagine maybe someone wants to drag the matter for either financial gains, but also it could be for sure that they are committed. They are elder advocates are very busy people. They have a lot of cases they are handling. Practitioners who are in active practice, and like me, they have a lot of matters. Sometimes you go to the offices and you see, they have like many screens because they are appearing in different courts at the same time, and so on and so forth. But generally, also at the same time, it's not just the advocates. I'm not blaming the advocates alone. There are many people, the people who have taken the matters themselves are not available, or they are busy, or they are not. Or the other side doesn't want the matter to drag. So the court has to be very case management. But you really have to manage your cases so that you make sure that they're heard in good time. And lately, I am now a member of the Media Complaints Commission, so I've seen the same things. The matters we adjudicate, I see some of the times people. Advocates appearing before us. We should take closer dates. Ideally, if we are all working in concert, we should be able to resolve some of these things very, very fast. But it is not. It is also true that many other cases are also resolved very fast. If you follow the process, if all of you have, you have the spirit. You really want the matter solved. You move very fast, all of you. The judiciary will facilitate you. There's a case I filed last year. We filed last year with a colleague of mine about the same matter of the Media Complaint Commission. And we filed it in July last year. And by May, it was completely solved. And we proceeded to implement the ruling, the decision of the court. So it's possible to have matters done quickly.
Yeah, so Wakili, there is this issue in terms of how judiciary runs its affairs, and one of the ways in terms of efficiency of judiciary has always been about funding, especially from the exchequer government. How has that affected how judiciary works in terms of dispensation of justice to Kenyans? Because every other year you find the funds meant for judiciary keeps reducing, keeps going down. How does that affect the overall performance of the judiciary, in your opinion?
It affects a lot in terms of the quality of what we are seeing, what is coming through from the judges. Judges need a lot of training. Magistrates need training. You also need many court stations. I just gave you the example of Makadara. If you go to Makadara, you really get... It's a movie. You can shoot a movie there. The things which happen in Makadara are very interesting. She appears to know some of them, because you are called from outside. It's full. It's a small court. That's what I'm saying. And you to get justice where you are not even seeing the magistrate who is calling out your name. You are in the corridor, and all of you have to shout "Nzau, Nzau, Nzau," so that you pass the message. It's really a mess. So it affects the quality. It affects the issues of access to justice, training, and so on and so forth. So it's a mess. It's a mess, and it has been happening, of course, because of political intrigue. Sometimes judiciary issues with the government of the day. You remember the revisiting situation of 2018. And also, sometimes judiciary itself, in deploying the funds, there was a lot of corruption issues which came out sometimes during Mutunga's reign as the Chief Justice. And even after that, many things have happened in terms of how you spend the money that you get. Do you spend it for the right things? What are your priorities as a judiciary, a judicial service commission? So I wouldn't speak for them, but there's a lot of... We see it every day. The impact is out here for common mwananchi.
Is the law actually protecting the general population? And I say that because we go through just judicial processes whereby justice be our shield and defender, essentially, and so that's what we talk about, a place of protection for the people of Kenya. With all these things that we are seeing, delaying of cases, whether they be deliberate or otherwise, missing files, somebody who may have ripped off the government. I mean, just yesterday, what are we seeing? The EACC is talking about a public auction for a former governor's property because he's been in case, and a plea bargain has been used as a tool then to then be able to sort out issues. But the person who stole a chicken is serving 7 years in prison. No question about that. No opportunity for plea bargain. So when you look at the bigger picture, are the people of Kenya actually being protected by the law? And is everything being done to ensure that that protection is free and fair?
Yeah. I agree. I mean, those are very heavy questions that you are raising. It is the law, the existence of the law alone is actually a good deterrence. You will be surprised if we were to suspend a law for a minute. Even if you forget about the courts, just the law, the fact that people know that I'm not supposed to steal. If the moment you say you suspend, we do not have the law itself, you will not even have these glasses you are wearing, Dennis. People will steal them. It's chaos, basically. So deterrence alone is good. But of course, there are now those issues that you're saying in terms of access, quality, fairness, and all these things are things which are usually, would like to say, work in progress. There are things which you should always be calling out as media, as civil society actors like myself, as advocates. The society needs to raise these issues when they see them. When they see the governor, you see cases being withdrawn, and when you follow the trajectory, you realize clearly there's no good reason why these cases are being withdrawn, and they are only being withdrawn for certain class of people. Yeah, the chicken thief, you say, is not being the matters. The DPP is not applying to withdraw them. But we also have checks and balances to try and ensure those things don't happen. I'm sure you've seen yesterday or the day before the courts refusing, and I've seen many times the courts refusing to allow the DPP to withdraw a matter.
Yes,
they have applied, but the court it does assessment, and they realize no, this should not be the case, and they withdraw. So that's part of the checks. But also people, I usually like to say what that former president, I forget which country, the one who was saying, make noise. It is good to make noise.
Yes.
Yeah, make noise. Make noise so that the people, the institutions which are supposed to provide these checks and balances realize that, people are watching. If it is a judiciary, if it is a court, if it is a DPP, they should be able to know that people are raising the issues about how come the number of the matters you are applying to withdraw. What is your criteria for this plea bargaining? Is it being applied across the board? Is everybody able to enter into a plea bargain? And so the bigger role actually lies with the actors like ourselves, the people who are seeing what is happening, who have access to tools like this and papers and so on, to write, to speak, and to raise those issues so that you improve your quality of judicial performance of judiciary.
Well, let's go back to politics, and when we talk about politics, we go to parliament.
You want to take me to politics, and you have just left. There's a politician who has left here.
A lawyer. He's a lawyer. He's a lawyer. So now, on that point, he's a lawyer. And you are a...
Actually, we are all politicians. Not just myself and the lawyers. Politics is a process through which resources and value. I always remember I did political science, and the definition was very interesting of what is political. What is politics? It is a process through which resources, values are allocated, are shared, and the way they are accessed by people. So all of us get involved in that process. So we are politicians, except that we are not elected. Proceed. Sorry.
Let's look at international law, international crimes. There was a time Parliament was flirting with this idea of trying to create a division that will then will create an international crimes division. So, but that thing has never taken off. You're aware of that?
Yes, I am, and it's really a shame that many years we are now in 2025.
Yes,
we passed the International Crimes Act in 2008. The commencement date was 2009, and many years later, I think now close to 15 years, we have never set a division which can adequately focus on those crimes, and these crimes have been happening here, or they are likely to happen here. We are now heading to a very sensitive period of election where people are beginning to, say all manner of things, and it's partly the blame is on all of us. I mean, we have not put, like I was saying, all the actors. We should be making noise. And you saw the other day I made noise myself.
Yes, we saw you made noise.
So we should make noise that we are not doing these things. We should have a division which is, whose attention is, the way we have divisions, many divisions in the current judiciary setup. And the only purpose for this division, agitation for this division, was that if you have a division which is tasked with charging international crimes, you develop expertise. International crimes are not easy to try. There are a lot of, the thresholds are quite high, and they are really serious. They are not even our crimes. Look, in fact, the term itself, international crime, means they are crimes which are reprehensible to the human race as a people, as a race. It's not Kenyans. We are dispensing this justice to preserve the dignity and the honor of the human person. So we should be very serious with that, and we are, unfortunately, we have not been. All of us, including myself.
Is the resistance to form this division, in your opinion, is it a political question or is it a legal question? Why has it taken this long? Because others have actually been formed. There's so many other things that you find when you're looking at the judicial progress, good progress.
It is a political. It's not a legal issue. The law is there. Parliament did their part. It is not a perfect law. You remember it was passed in the heat of post-election violence. So, I've covered politics many years, and I always MPs are legislators are politicians. So they are usually they consider a lot of things before they do certain things. And you remember this act was passed in 2008, just after the post-election violence. So people are worried about many things. So the law is there. It is not perfect, but at least it is there. But that's not even the big issue. Our constitution, which we passed, I think a year later after 2010, also says that all the treaties and conventions that we sign up to are part of our laws. So the act preceded the constitution, but now we even have a constitution which actually takes on board all the international agreements or things that we have signed up to. So the law is there, but the political will, both from the political class and the judiciary itself, because judiciary should be able. I think in one of the pieces that I did, I think I posed that question. I do not understand why judiciary itself cannot move of its own motion, because they are the ones who set up Judicial Service Commission sets up the divisions. They have the family division, they have this criminal division, and so on and so forth. They do it as part of it's an administrative task. They should be able to do that. But they have never done that. There was initiatives during Mutunga's time they formed a committee, they did this and that. They actually tried to implement it, to take steps which would have created a division, but then it died in the same. I think it's a mix of both judicial politics and the national politics. You remember that time we had some suspects at the International Criminal Court. This act itself also provides a framework for cooperating with the criminal court. So maybe people felt, basically. Yeah. So in short, what I'm taking too long to say is that it was killed.
How much of a game changer would it be if we had this division of court domicile here?
The game changer would be, number one, you really have people who are focused on those international crimes. Like I said, they are really technical. I mean, the threshold is quite high for these international crimes. And you will have judges who are trained. You'll train them for those purposes. You should be able to grow expertise that should be able to quickly process these things. And that should reflect across the whole administration of justice chain, because there are also prosecutors need to be trained on these international crimes. What are they? Why do we have them? What are the elements of these crimes? These things about organizational or state policy, command responsibility, all those terms we used to hear during the ICC, those things. You need that. But we are not saying that it is not possible to prosecute international cases. As a matter of fact, this year, I think in May, the Baby Pendo case, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, after a lot of games which were done for many years, Again, now it's 2025.
Yes.
Those crimes are committed in
2017.
Now we have charged some officers, police officers, senior police officers with international crimes under the International Crimes Act. And you see, they are being charged within the criminal division of the High Court. So it is still possible to prosecute international crimes under the current divisions, the ones we have, the criminal division. Except that criminal divisions have a lot of other things they are dealing with, including what you say, the poultry thief. So you are dealing from poultry, you are jumping from handling a poultry thief to crimes against humanity. And the expertise is really, really key for successful prosecution of these crimes.
So usually in case law, you'll have case studies whereby you actually see where these things work, and then that's what sets precedent, right?
Yes.
We hear lawyers doing it all the time. That in Roe versus Wade, as was one of the most famous cases that we see being used in the United States, this happened and it set precedent moving forward, right? Do we see examples whereby you're able to have a healthy marriage between political ambition and desire, goodwill, and also the rule of law, working together so that justice is actually served, whether it is domiciled or whether it is external?
That's a very serious question. You're almost becoming a philosopher.
I moonlight as a philosopher.
You are indeed a philosopher. You are philosophizing on the law. I think it is possible what you say. We are at a moment. Sometimes you have moments. I think 2008, and we live there. I mean, many of us were there. In 2008, after the post-election violence, the conscience of our society was shaken. I remember myself covering the Waki Commission and all those commissions which were obtaining around that period. And there was a feeling in the country that we need to align between what you are saying, political ambitions, and the law. You know, we need order. Basically, all of us, we feel political ambition alone should not be allowed to supersede certain things, certain norms, which in international law, they call them those peremptory norms, things which the international society, the society itself, the human race feels they cannot condone these things. It's the bare minimum. We cannot condone things like slavery right now. It is not possible, and you don't need any law for that matter. We cannot condone the crimes against it. These international crimes, they can never be condoned, and anything which obstructs that, including immunity of states, because international law is based on that, immunity of heads of states. The way we say, the president cannot be prosecuted. When it comes to international crimes, because they are so reprehensible, people cannot, and we have come a long way from 1945, blah, blah, blah. Last night I listened, and I'm sure many of you did, listen to our president during the UNGA session. He gave a very, very interesting speech. And he was vouching for these institutions which are created to promote peace in the world, but also to protect the people. To protect the people. So, the question you're asking, it is possible to align the political ambition, but also justice at the same time.
Right.
But sometimes it requires moments. We had a very perfect moment in 2010. For some reason, we lost it along the way, partly because of the ICC, the same ICC issues. We had a moment where things were picking up. You try to appoint Dennis here as a chairman of a state parastatal, Kenya, and say, no, there is no competition. One of our values is that people must compete for these positions.
Yes.
So we need to see other two names given. But over time, those things, the threshold kept going slow and slow and slow. But it's up to us to revive those things by having these discussions and seizing the moments when they present themselves, especially sometimes during transitions, like political transitions. The moment become very good to align what the law is providing and how politicians are behaving and how we are behaving as a society. You align all those things at the same time. It is possible.
But there's a feeling that we have a justice gap in the sense that we have a legacy that you can look back to and say, okay, there's a precedent that was set. So ICC was hearing the Kenyan cases, and it feels like there's unfinished business. And so the question will be, if ICC couldn't do it, how are we trying to have this thing set up here locally, where we know a lot of influences around, and it almost feels like, as a direct result of what then we saw and witnessed with the ICC cases, there is a lot that is still unfinished up until today.
Yes. There are a lot of things pending, pending business with the crimes were never prosecuted. If you remember,
yes.
What happened is that these matters were dropped. Of course, we frustrated the court ourselves. And eventually the matters were dropped. But you remember, there were many crimes which were committed. People tend to forget that more than 1,000 people died. Thousands, hundreds of thousands were displaced from their places. Many people went back, others did not go back. The sexual violence which took place in 2008 was really shocking. I like I said, and I'm sure you did, I covered the Waki Commission, and I went around the country with him and so on, and I was shocked at some of the things which were done, especially the sexual violence crimes which took place. And all those people just disappeared. They were never punished. They are still living, and you remember I started, more or less like making some snide remarks about our churches and our being religious. Those people go to church up to date. I am sure the people who did those things, they go
Some
to
of
church.
them are in political offices.
Yeah, maybe I'm not quite sure, but maybe they are.
Yeah.
But the point you are making is that it is true. They are pending issues, but it is not that we cannot do it. Where there is a political will for these things to be done, they can be done. And our courts actually proved that. You are the one who cited the example of the governor of Migori, the former governor who has lost most of his properties to the courts and to the state. It is possible. But again, we need a lot of pressure from people. Political actors actually work with pressure.
Yeah.
And we have seen it work. When they realize that, like what happened last year, the Gen Z protest, the president was, he felt, these guys are passing a message. So he sacked his cabinet. So things like those. So political pressure, and I'm not saying we go out to the streets, the way what happened last year. And of course, we are free to go. And anybody should feel free to, to picket and so on. But the pressure is very, very key. We are the ones who put these people into office. We should be able to make certain demands. The International Crimes Act should be implemented. It is partly implemented, but should be used often. Last year we had the spate of abductions, which shocked all of us. And if you really go through the International Crimes Act, our own act, you could even argue that those they met the threshold. The abductions met the threshold for international crimes. They should have been prosecuted. They appeared at least before investigation. We could see there appeared to be some policy of sorts to abduct these young people because it was happening every so often. So all those things should be brought within the law, and the law should be tested so that we see its efficacy. If it is not enough, if it needs amendment, but if you have a law which since 2012 has never been put to use until now, the baby pendo, since 2011, we have never used it. So how would you know whether it is working or not working?
Again, it means that we keep testing these things over time, and sometimes it gives you it gives this defeatist feeling like, okay, we seem to be making progress. We're making noise, and it will shake these people. But it's like a chicken. It will just shake itself, dust off,
and move on,
and continue moving on. Because the Waki Commission, for example, there was a report. TJRC has a report, but it appears there's systemic unwillingness to act on any of these commissions that are formed. Today, we have, I don't know how many commissions we have today. There's even one to compensate victims. Already there are stories that are in the dailies of what exactly is happening. So it almost appears crimes will be committed.
Yes.
Then those who are responsible will say, okay, let's take a step back. We're going to form a commission. Let's fix this thing. Then the commission will do a report after months. Then a report will gather dust somewhere. No implementation.
The beauty about these things, Dennis, is the international crimes. They do not have a time limitation. You can always revisit them after even 100 years. When the crimes which were committed, criminal acts generally, but also even more specifically international crimes, you can still come back and you say the things which happen in this date and this date. You can prosecute these people. People ran away for many years, including the famous man that you did a famous story on. The Rwandese guy.
He was
he was eventually cornered. So, well, he more or less evaded justice because he became sick and could not stand trial and so on. But the point is, you can revisit these things. So we should. What I'm saying is that we should not lose hope and say these guys are always, they win the game against us because they have something. They always have something up their sleeve. There's this commission. There's reconciliation.
Yeah. It's interesting that you
so
say
on
that,
and so
Nzau,
forth.
because even with these international courts, they're not mandatory courts for nations to be part of. The ICC, for example, if you didn't append as a nation your signature to the Rome Statute, which essentially created the ICC, then you have a choice of attending or not attending, as it were. If you didn't ratify the statute as a nation, you can actually, you're not bound by it. Is this the case?
No.
Or
Actually,
you can decide in the future to leave.
Yeah, you can. Kenya tried those games, but they realized it was not working. What the situation is this, Ndu. The like I said, those they call them just Coggins. I think those funny terms. I'm learning to use these terms.
I know.
Because they make me sound sophisticated.
Of course.
When I'm not. Yeah, but they are reprehensible, what I call peremptory norms, things which the international society, the international community, the community of nations abhor. They cannot condone. Because history has taught us that we cannot condone these things if we want to survive as a race.
Right.
And so the mere fact that you are not a member of International Criminal Court through the Rome Statute does not mean that you'll get away with those crimes. I think Omar Bashir of Sudan did that.
Yes.
And he was indicted. He still has indictment against him in the International Criminal Court right now. He played games. You remember he once came here. In fact, during our promulgation of our constitution, I was there and I saw him, and I was making a joke and saying, if I wanted to become famous, I would have run and tried to arrest him. We should have actually arrested the former president of Sudan. But Sudan is not a member of the court.
Yes,
but he was indicted because the crimes that we are talking about are not. They fall outside the norms of even whether you are a member of this court, whether you are a member of, or whether you are a sovereign nation. Humanity cannot condone them, and therefore what we call universal jurisdiction. Other states should be able to arrest. The matter actually was taken to court. I remember by ICJ. They went to court after Bashir came here, and they impressed on the court to issue an arrest warrant to arrest him, and it was issued. The state, as usual, appealed, and the appeal took a bit longer. Eventually, the Court of Appeal affirmed that we should have arrested Bashir when he was here, and if he comes again, a warrant should be issued, but they revoked the previous warrant. There was a provisional warrant which had been issued against him. So it is the crimes that we talk about are such that you really do not have a protection anywhere in the world. If you try to, even right now, you've seen the International Criminal Court has indicted the president of Russia.
Yes.
The prime minister. I wanted to say something, but I won't. Yeah, the prime minister of Israel. So because you see what is happening. Yeah. But we seem to have never learned any lesson from 1945. All these things, by the way, the history of the formation of the International Criminal Court started in 1945 after the
Second World War.
The Second World War. Those events and what happened and the lessons we picked. The UN was formed. After the UN, there were many. You remember those tribunals which used to be for specific periods, but then the world realized we really need a permanent court to do these things. Unfortunately, like you're suggesting, many of the powers that be, which our president was speaking about last night at the UN, are not members of that court. So the international justice itself is skewed in a way. It is true, it is skewed. What we used to argue during the international, our cases here. It is skewed because those guys are still, they are not members. The US is not a member. Russia, all those countries, they are not. But they are not immune. If they do crimes, they should be crimes against humanity or international crimes, they should be genocide, they should be able to be indicted by the court.
Would you say that the larger population of the world understand the importance of the International Criminal Court? Or is it just a conversation by the elites?
I agree with you. They may not understand, especially the very complicated history. but the impact is usually felt at most at base levels. You realize in those days there was people would fight. Countries are fighting, so the armies are fighting each other. But nowadays, the people themselves within the countries are being fought within by their either political actors who are playing games against it, or they are struggling for power. So the people might not understand, and that is usually the case anyway. But you have the elite who should be able to spread these messages and to put who oversee those systems, the checks and balances of criminal accountability. They should be able to do that. I don't expect my grandmother in the village to really know so much about international crime, but I expect my grandmother to feel that she's protected. When she's doing her chores down there, she's collecting firewood and so on. She should be protected from harm, criminal elements who exist in our society. Whether those criminal elements are the state elements within the state, which is the police, or even criminal gangs outside the state, like Mungiki and so on and so forth. So the protection, the benefits accrue to the people, but they might not quite understand the intricacies of the International Criminal Court or the international justice mechanism. It's really a heavy. Even as advocates, we study international
law,
criminal law.
Criminal law.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a great conversation, and it's very interesting to hear you say, even as advocates, because there's still 4 journalists sitting around a table having this conversation this morning. So thank you for joining us, Nzau Musau. Journalist is always a journalist, even though he now is a lawyer as well. Thank you for joining us with this today, and it's most enlightening to be able to look into some of these things from a more critical lens, as it were. So, welcome to the other side anytime. Asante sana. Thank you for being here this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.